there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder here with a follow-up video to the Pioneer Challenger Decks 2022 Is It Worth It to Buy video that I released yesterday. And I had a lot of comments that were critiquing my analysis of are reprints indefinitely good for the game. And that was the premise that I like to take is that it's not so black and white. It's a fine tightrope you have to walk if you're Wizards of the Coast on how to bring reprints back into the game. Of course, there needs to be reprints. Accessibility does matter. You can't get priced out, and I understand that Magic is a very expensive game, but I want to challenge that premise that it's always good, and I also want to address, coming from a psychology background, coming from an analyst for the market in this particular game, coming from a store owner, coming from a player myself that has built up a collection, the humans are fickle beings. And one of the things that especially Americans, but humans in general, is we like a sense of progress. And I think that the collectible card game aspect, that's why I'm titling this video that Magic the Gathering is a collectible card game, and why that matters, is a part of the entire fun of playing this game. There have been countless amounts of LCGs that have been released that absolutely hate this model, and they've all failed. Things like Ashes, things like some of the Arkham Horrors and Marvel Champions. I mean, I guess they haven't failed, but none of them have ever come close to CCGs because there is just something addictive, not just addictive, and I'm not saying that in a predatory way, but let's just say satisfying instead of addictive, about progressing towards building something, slowly progressing towards a goal. And when you have something like an LCG, where you just, let me define LCG for those of you who are unfamiliar. An LCG is a living card game, meaning that you buy a box product and every expansion has all the cards included. That's it. That you get. So there are aspects of that in Magic the Gathering with like Commander decks are sort of LCGs because they include the product of all you need for that. Like you're getting the same stuff in that product. But LCGs, as far as like the board games and card game genre is concerned, is there isn't other products you have to buy on top of that. You know exactly what you get. That's the release for the year. You get it, and there aren't any booster packs or anything else that go into the mix. And a lot of the games that follow that kind of philosophy, they don't believe in the buying the booster packs. They think is a little bit predatory, or whatever reasons they think it's better marketable to go just the LCG route. Now, with some games, of course, that does work, but other games, and especially Magic the Gathering, I'm here to make the argument that half the fun of this game is progressing towards a goal. And there's nothing in my 8+ years of being a store owner that has been more detrimental to people leaving the game or getting wallet fatigue or just burnout than watching their collection get reprinted into the ground, or having something they worked so hard to achieve then just come out as a box set and they're like, oh, well, I should have just waited for that. And again, people can make arguments after arguments after arguments that these people don't matter, that being salty, let me bathe in your tears of losing money in your collection. But it's a real thing, and it has real ramifications to the game. And even yourself, I'd like you to go look in the mirror and point at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself honestly too, that does this affect you? And I'm telling you it does. And let me give you a little bit of a anecdote here with a game called World of Warcraft. Now, I played the game clear back in the day when it was still in the what we call vanilla, and man, oh man, is it impossible to get. I mean, level 60 was a huge achievement to get to there, whatever level cap at that point was. Now I can remember off the top of my head. And getting like the top tier gear took forever. I mean, you had to organize these big raid groups. You had to actually join these guilds that were good at achieving them. There were a lot of politics. I mean, it was just a lot of time consumption to actually achieve the goals in the game. And then they came out with a kind of a competitive PvP aspect to the game with the, first of all, it was the team-oriented ones with like the Warsong Gulch, and then later on they made the arena. And it was the same thing. Like you really, really had to grind. If you wanted to get the gear necessary to compete, you really had to put some effort into World of Warcraft. And something around like Wrath of the Lich King changed, where they listened to the plebs. They listened to the people that are like, it's inaccessible. We don't want to have to spend hours and hours and hours to do this sort of stuff, or we wanted it to be easy. You're pricing people out of the game by time, blah, blah, blah. And so what they ended up doing is they ended up giving out last season's gear for basically 95% off. Sometimes it was just basically freebies to get last like last season's gear. And the problem is with the power creep at that point, the new season was only slightly better than the last season. So literally people could enter the game, grab the last season's gear, and yes, they'd be able to compete and maybe not have that exact edge. But what it ended up doing is it just led to player burnout, where people were like, what's the point? I'm just going to sit out a couple seasons then. What's the point of competing? What's the point of grinding? What's the point of progressing? And it was the same thing they started doing, not just with the PvP, but with the PvE. They'd dumb down the dungeons. They'd give the gear for free. They'd make it easier. They started making it so that the leveling up was a lot easier. And it went from a game that had a lot of complexity and a lot of progress to just kind of a joke of a game. And I don't know how it changed since then, but that was like the big exodus of WoW back in that time was. And there was, and again, it was a tightrope. Vanilla WoW was absolutely ludicrous. You were stuck to your one character. If you wanted to reroll your character, it was just insane the amount of hours that you would have to put back in just to level up. But with that came a sense of satisfaction. And I'm going to make that argument with Magic the Gathering. Again, coming from a store owner's perspective and seeing so many people have wallet fatigue and burnout, this is important. This is important to people to feel like they want to avoid buyer's remorse. They want to feel like they progress. They want to feel like the time they've spent in this multiverse of Magic the Gathering of collecting cards has been worth it. And it's again, humans are just so fickle to the psychology when it comes to that of whether or not their experience has been worthwhile or not. I mean, it's the same thing you can say about any purchase that people have made. If then say you purchase a house and then all of a sudden it's worth less, you have less satisfaction of that purchase. You feel like you've been like ripped off and you actually have less satisfaction now in that house. It's just human psychology. And for those of you that don't think that is part of the game, you are so wrong. And that's my big pushback, my big argument. Now, specifically going back to Challenger decks, my main point in the Challenger decks was this was a product that everyone was begging for, yet nobody is buying. And the sales data really shows that. Pioneer Challenger decks of 2021 are still available from distributors. This was supposed to be something that was a seasonal thing. This is now a rotating format with like new cards coming into the format. You can still get Challenger Decks 2019 from distributors at a discounted price. These are not something that are sought after highly. Like a few people here and there might purchase these, but the vast majority of people are not putting their money where their mouth is, and they're not buying these Pioneer Challenger decks, even though they are the ones that begged for them. And I think one of the major problems is this. So I've got the prices pulled up right now for Challenger decks. Right now you get about $112 worth of product. I did an analysis on my last video of saying, okay, if you take cards that are over $3, this actually really goes down. So in this one, you get Thing in the Ice and Arclight Phoenix. This is a weird deck because this was not a complete deck. The Mirror Control is just absolutely weird because it just doesn't really have the necessary tools you need to... I think my mic is way too high. I apologize for that if I've been blowing people's ears out. This deck is just very incomplete with what you get. And again, you get some lands here that have some value, but overall you have to really upgrade this deck to make it worthwhile. And then we have the two decks that were really well built as far as being able to play outside the box. And the problem is there's just no value in them. They've had a lot of cards that have been printed a billion times. And again, why purchase this project if you have a product if you have no faith in this product being able to hold its value long term or feel like you've made a good purchase? So what I mean by this is now the third printing of Chandra Torch of Defiance, I believe, in Challenger decks alone. Same thing with Lovestruck Beast. Lovestruck Beast was printed as a 4 of already in a Challenger deck. Same thing with Bone Crusher Giant. Scavenging Ooze has been printed, where these are basically just worthless cards at this point. And for those of the people that actually collected these cards, that actually work towards them, I mean, at this point, just make them uncommons or something, if that's the case. Why even put a rare symbol on them? I know that rarity affects some formats, but at this point, it's just kind of laughable that this is like, slotted in as a rare when it has no value because it's just been printed and printed and printed. And the same thing with Wars Off Humans. This is the problem with Wizards has to tightrope is, Luminarch Aspirant, second time it's been printed as a 4 of in a Challenger deck. I believe the same thing with Valley's Lieutenant. And so they're just, it's a tightrope of where they can keep this a collectible card game. They can give people that feeling of progress towards they're building towards something. And I get it. You can just skip that by buying singles and stuff like that. And should there be an entry-level product towards something? Absolutely. My issue is that you have to be looking day by day, month by month, year by year of what products you've put out And have you killed the collectability of the game? Have you killed that sense of progress while still maintaining a way to still have accessibility into the game? Again, that was World of Warcraft's whole problem when they, the pendulum swung way too far the other way. Is it went from vanilla WoW, where it was just new players, no way, no how they're going to compete. They have 6 months they have to catch up on, so they're going to have to invest a huge portion of their gaming experience just trying to catch up. Or then they go to the Wrath of the Lich King, where it's just like pure easy mode, complete accessibility. Now all that progress, all that, the years of people spent were in vain at that point. And again, this might not matter to you. You might say, oh, bathe in your tears of the people. This is, getting more people into the game. It does matter for a CCG, and it is one of the massive perks to playing Magic the Gathering is that sense of progress. We start with a little tiny collection, and then you start, that's why you have trade binders and you keep your cards and all that kind of stuff, is that does matter. That is part of the game, whether you like it or not, whether you disagree with it, whether you think it should just be an LCG type game where everything was accessible, there were no mythic rarities, then again, that's the whole, I guess the question is, where do you want this game to go? Do you think fickle humans have no place in this? Do you think the people that don't value or that do value progress or have that wallet fatigue or buyer's remorse just can go suck it up and cry their tears? That's my question back to the community. And let's just check out some of these. When I went back to the Challenger decks, this is exactly what happens. Let's go back to Challenger decks 2022. These are the standard ones. There's absolutely zero value in these now. You just have a bunch of bulk cards. There's your Luminarch Aspirant again that was pre-printed as a 4 of. There's your Thalia that was printed as a 2 of. You have your kind of rotated cards. Some of them still do see some play, but the value's gone. It says $44 here, but I mean, this is all just stuff that you can pick up for super, super cheap. If you're using things like cards for and stuff like that, you can get any card that's under like $1, you can get for at least a 75% discount on people trying to sell them, because there's no way that after fees on places like eBay and TC Player, they're going to make money on these type of cards. So you can easily get these cards for pennies on the dollar if they're under like the $2-3. We go over here to Mirror Control. That one's doing aging a little bit better because of Graveyard Trespasser and Hullbreaker Horror still somewhat holding value, but this is another problem. Hullbreaker Horror has been just reprinted in so many box sets. Here's a Mythic that's just got slammed because it's in this box set. And again, there's just no value in these type of decks where they've lost it all with the reprintability. Goldspan Dragon, this one, it's a good pickup, I guess, there. Yeah, it's just something that Magic really needs to walk that fine tightrope, and that's my major criticism when everyone just talks about, black and white, these products are just all good. Go back to some of the old Challenger decks, and they've just been crushed with any sort of value in them, where you're hard to find anything that's worth money because of the amount of times it's been printed in here with these particular cards. And a lot of these cards too still see lots of play. There's a lot of just what happens to the collectability of it. So anyway, that is my critique of them. I think that they release these too often. And I also think that they release them in too high quantities. And that was my entire point of the video, is I wish that they would have... See, these got one article too. That's it. It's like, oh, we got Challenger decks coming out. I mean, the first time the Challenger decks came out, it was awesome. People were like, this is a product people wanted. The intro decks were absolutely abysmal. They were insufferable. They were laughable. And then they came up with these Challenger decks, were actually decks that you could pick up and play and priced appropriately. And they had a very, very good reaction at first. But now, as year after year, they keep getting less and less anticipated. Wizards just gives one article about them. People forget about them in 2 seconds because the next previews just came out. And unfortunately, they keep going after the same targets over and over, to where none of these are going to be able to accrue any value. Again, with like I said, the Lovestruck Beast here, we have the Bone Crushers and Lovestruck getting double reprints in Challenger decks, and year after year. And same thing now going back to the Pioneer. Look at the ones that happened with last year. These did out the gates have I believe, did they sell pricing on MT Goldfish but I believe these were around 130, 120 when they first came out of these deck lists, and they've just been completely destroyed in the ground with their reprintings of even like Brazen Borrower and these cards. Again, I know I'm going to get so much pushback here in the, oh, Kevin, you're a dirty seller, you're dirty, you're trying to make money off Magic the Gathering. Not really. I'm a store owner. I will sell anything that sells. Like if I can get a margins on any product, like I have an out that you guys don't. I don't speculate in cards nearly as much as I do anymore because if I can just take my regular margins from new releases or products and make better margins than most speculators are going to, just being able to have that access from buying from a distributor and then just selling it at wholesale, I mean, selling it at MSRP or quote unquote what should be MSRP. That's going to be able to outdo the vast majority of any speculator like buying and selling Magic cards. So again, this is coming from me as someone that's watched people just go through that buyer's remorse and go through that wallet fatigue of product after product where they feel, oh, what's the point? What's the point to actually investing in this set? I'm just going to wait for this another box set to come out and not purchase this kind of stuff. And eventually that leads to an overall, poor taste in people's mouth, and the experience gets diluted because of humans just wanting that sense of progress. They want that sense of hard work. They want that sense of feeling like their purchases mattered and had some sort of long-term value or worth. And they don't have to feel like, oh man, this purchase that I did with this Lotus Field was such a bad buy because there's no money left in it. And that's the big issue. Yeah, Bunkers are Giant again here, and this it's been printed so many stinking times. But that's my rant for this, and that's why I want to put that question out once and for all to the community. Is Magic the Gathering a collectible card game, and does that matter? Or should we just print everything in box sets? Should every Pro Tourist be like, I mean, they kind of do that in Pokemon. Whatever just won the deck that is oftentimes almost complete a carbon copy of it and then sell it for nothing. I know that Yu-Gi-Oh does that too, where it's where you can get these cards that just, it is a fine line. I'm telling you, there's no quicker way to kill a game than to, kind of cave to that sense that cards shouldn't cost money or shouldn't be money or the game should be completely accessible. I am all for accessibility of Magic the Gathering, but tightrope is the key concept here. You have to still be able to maintain the sense of value that people had when they purchased a product or a booster pack or entered an event, and kind of weigh that to the accessibility of the game and not pricing people out. Hope this video makes sense to people. Hope they're not taking it the wrong way, that I'm just some greedy capitalist that are trying to, scam people and make money. But people need to realize that humans are fickle. They want to feel satisfied. They want to feel like their work paid off. This has been Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.